All right, so in the preliminaries, those are going to be your early fights. We have 7 fights lined up right now, and all of those guys are low record. They're either debut, one fight. I think maybe one guy has 2 fights. These are all of your greener, starting out fighters. But most all of them come from reputable gyms, so we place them together with other reputable gym fighters, and they usually always, impress us right out the gate. Now, when you get to the main card, oh, and by the way, the prelims will be for free on our YouTube channel. So any of the
Oh, that's
fighters
pretty cool.
that are lined up on the preliminaries, their fights will be for free on YouTube. Once we move to the main card, that'll be the pay-per-view, and every single one of those fights are experienced fighters, most of whom are either in a position to get to a title fight or are in a title eliminator, or in our main event, it's an actual title fight.
Now you're a feeder group. We talked about this before. These fighters are getting their feet wet in this amateur fighting because we're straight up amateur, which means we don't pay the fighters. The fighters don't make any money. It's all amateur fighting. Now they've moved up. I remember at Kill Dog One, at the Fights One, Dog Fights One, I brought in 3 people that were already moved up to the next level. Is that correct, Brandon? They were multi belt winners. Do you remember Nico? They were. We had a couple guys that were fighting in different realms already.
I'll let Brandon speak to that one.
So yeah, we brought in some of our former champions. We brought in Rudy Isidro. He is now a professional fighter at 125. He was a 2-time champion for us. And then we also brought in DJ Tice. He was former heavyweight champion who's now fighting pro bare knuckle. And then who was our third? Oh, and then in the crowd we had Trevor Thomas. Trevor Thomas is a reigning, defending 172-pound champion who is also a nationally recorded singer.
No kidding. See, I mean that's awesome. So you are actually building these guys up to get their first fights under their belts and move them up into the professional realm of fighting, whichever aspect they're doing, boxing, kickboxing, MMA. Did we lose Brandon or no? Okay, we'll keep going. But you can see
Am I
we're
still
going
there?
through the fights. There you are. You're back. But what I'm trying to get to is you're
Okay.
you're we're actually building these people to move up into this world of fighting. They're not just staying in this amateur realm and then they don't do well, they quit, they don't these people are moving on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely. We have about 14 or 15 professionals that are former either champions or fought most of their career with us that are now on the professional level making big noise. We had our first ever fighter make the Dana White Contender Series. That was Olivier Murad. He won, but he didn't get a UFC contract, unfortunately. And we have literally 10 guys that are on the cusp of getting that phone call. I think our most notable champions on the professional level right now are David Mundell, the redneck, out of Clearwater, Florida, at Shift MMA. He fought for us at Combat Quest 3, and he is now the Bare Knuckle FC middleweight world champion. And then we
Dang.
also have a guy, yes sir, that's David Mundell, former Vigil at Combat Quest number 3. Then we also have a younger guy named Nick Hawkins, who was our amateur middleweight MMA champion at 185. He's now 4-1 pro bare knuckle, and he's the BYB backyard boxing bare knuckle world champion. And the guy that he beat was the European champion, so he actually got the Police Gazette belt, which means that you're the overall world champion, not just for a single organization. So pretty cool that 2 of our guys are already bare knuckle world champions on the pro level.
Brandon, I have a hard time remembering the 4 names on the screen, and I don't know how you remember every damn name of the fighter that's moved on to doing all this shit. I'm sitting here going, how do you remember that? Now, Jersky, what's the best line when it comes to boxing? Now, I'm not talking Rocky, all right? There's a quote, from Mike Tyson. What's Mike Tyson's favorite quote?
Oh, it's pretty. What the one that I'm not saying that shit.
No,
everybody
everybody's
has
got
a
a game
plan until
plan.
they get.
Get punched in the face.
That's it. That is it. You didn't know that? Everybody's got a game plan until you get punched in the face.
Yep. And I know a
That's
lot of
that's how
teams,
that works.
Tony. I know a bunch of teams. Well, I shouldn't say a bunch. I know a handful of teams that they never tell their fighters who they're facing. I'll tell the coach who the matchup is, and he'll agree to it. But they don't tell their fighters who they're facing because they just tell them to prepare for whoever is the UFC champion at your weight class. And if you're
No
preparing
shit.
for the UFC champion at your weight class, then you'll be ready for whoever you face.
That's cool.
So they ain't got time to go
Nico,
watch no tape or do nothing or learn nothing about their opponent. They just come out and squabble.
Right, right.
No
And now the
shit.
coach does the research. The coach does the preparation and looking at the opponent and game planning.
knows
But
how to
good
train the
coaches,
fight. Yeah,
So they're training
yes
them for
sir.
that opponent, but they don't know who they're fighting that night. I got you.
Correct. Because a lot of things, things can get into a fighter's head. Oh, this guy's undefeated. Oh, this guy's never been taken down. Oh, this guy's never been knocked
oh
down.
yeah.
And then you start worrying about those things, and it throws you off.
Nico, fill us in a little bit more on what happens at these fights, seating arrangements. That way we'll get you involved. I know that the DJ does his thing, and fill us in a little bit more, Nico, on how these events happen and what time's best to get there and all that.